Hello all, in this video we will be going through chapter 2 lesson 4, which is about solving two-step and multi-step inequalities. Now this video is going to be a combination of explanation as well as the solving of practice workbook answers, so that it's two in one. I'm not going to make another separate video just for explanation. I will be explaining the steps through these questions. Right, so to move on with this lesson, definitely you need to have an idea of how to solve addition and subtraction, multiplication and division of inequalities. If you have not watched those videos, or you might have forgotten, so I leave the iCard a link in the iCard above. Please do watch that because the detailed explanations have been done there. This is going to be an explanation for multi-step inequalities, not particularly for multiplication, division, or addition and or subtraction. Right, so to start the lesson, let's start with this question, right? Solve each inequality and graph the solution. Now already you know an inequality is also treated the same way as an equation. We are going to solve it the same way. We are going to keep all the variables onto one side and keep the numbers onto one side. So the same rule will be applied here. You can see that this question says negative 3a plus 10 is less than negative 11, which means we need to move the number to the other side of the inequality. So if you move the number to the other side of the inequality, that will leave you with negative 3a is less than negative 11, negative 10, because on this side of the inequality it is positive 10. So when you move it to the other side, that becomes a negative 10. So negative 3a is less than negative 21, which means negative, you will be adding negative the two numbers. 11 plus 10 will give us 21. Both have the negative signs, so the answer will also definitely have a negative sign. Now these all are algebraic rules. Always you need to remember those rules. Right, now the next step is negative 3a is less than negative 21, which means we have to isolate the a, right? So to isolate the a, we have to remove the negative 3 from here. Now hopefully you do know what does this mean. This means negative 3 multiplied by a. So to remove the negative 3, we are going to do the opposite operation. So a is going to be negative 21 divided by negative 3. But because you're solving inequalities, now inequalities differ a little bit from equations. So according to that, when you're solving inequality, if you're multiplying or dividing any inequality with a negative number, the sign needs to be flipped. Now here, because you're dividing negative 21 with the negative 3, that means the sign will be flipped. The lesser becomes greater. If it was a greater sign here, that will change to a lesser one. Right? So you need to keep this one point in mind whenever you are multiplying or dividing a negative number. When you are solving an inequality, you have to reverse the or flip the sign. Now what if you have only negative 21 divided by 3 without this negative 3? Do you need to flip? No, you don't. Only if the number with which you are dividing is negative or multiplying is negative, then the sign will flip. Doesn't matter about the number with which you are going to divide. The number which you are going to divide doesn't matter, but the number with which you are going to divide or multiply, if it's negative, that means the sign will flip. It's better to make a note somewhere so that when you are revising, you will keep that in mind. So you know that if you divide two negative numbers, that's going to give you a positive number. So the inequality for this is a is greater than 7. Now for the next step, which we are going to graph the inequality. So it says a is greater than 7. So I will draw a circle on 7. Right? Now, I need to decide which side should the arrow be moving. Should it move to the right to show all the greater numbers than 7, or should it move to the left to show all the smaller numbers than 7? It says A is greater, so definitely it should show all the greater numbers. So your inequality graph is going to be like this, which means all these numbers with which the arrow is going through, all those numbers can be solutions for A. So A can be 8, it can be 10, it can be 12, it can be 13.5, any number which is greater than 7. Keeping this in mind, let's try to solve the next question. Again, before you solve the question, read the question once so that immediately you will tend to understand what you need to do. So here 4x minus 12 is greater than or equal to 20, which means definitely we need to get rid of this number first. We have to move it to the other side, right? Which means that's going to be 4x is greater or equal to 20 plus 12, right? So because it's negative 12 on this side, so the inverse of negative is positive, so it becomes a positive 12 on the other side of the inequality. Same just like how we used to solve equations. So 4x is going to be greater or less than 32, because 12 plus 20, 12 plus 20 is 32. So the next is, we are going to remove this 4 from here. We have to isolate the x. So this means 4 multiplied by x, which means to remove the 4 from there, we need to do the inverse. So the inverse of multiply is divide. So the solution for this inequality is going to be x is greater or equal to 8. That means any number which is 8 or greater, number which is 8 or greater than 8 can be solutions for this inequality. Right, so let's check how can we graph this on a number line. We start from 8. Do we need to shape this circle? Yes, we do, because it also says 8, which means 8 is also a solution. How about now drawing the arrow? Which side do you think the arrow should move to? Should it move to the right or to the left? It should move to the right, because it should show all the numbers which are greater than 8. So which means it is to the right. Also, like the tips which I had already given you, look at this sign. It's like the head of the arrow. So it's pointing to the right. That's an easy question. Let's try to solve this. 2k minus 3 is divided by negative 5, which is greater than 7. Okay, so 2k minus 3 divided by negative 5 greater than 7. So what do you think is the first step to solve this inequality? The first step is we are going to multiply the inequality with negative 5, because we have to remove this from here, right? So 2k minus 3 is going to be less than 7 multiplied by negative 5. Now, hopefully you understood why this flipped, because we are multiplying the inequality with a negative number. Remember the rule I just said in the first slide, if you are dividing or multiplying with a negative number, the sign needs to flip. So here it was greater, it became lesser. So the next step is going to be 2k minus 3 is less than negative 35. Right. So what's the next thing? We have to remove this negative 3 from here and put it to the other side. So what happens when you move the negative 3 to the other side? That becomes a positive 3, right? So that will leave you with 2k is greater than negative 32, because 35 minus 3, because 1 is negative, 1 is positive. So in the algebraic rules, we tend to subtract both the numbers and choose the sign which the greater number has. Hopefully you do remember the algebraic rules, because that's very important throughout your math lessons, any lesson. So 2k is lesser than negative 32. So what's the next step? We need to remove this 2 from here. So k is going to be less than negative 32 divided by 2. Now you might be wondering why I did not flip this. Because 2 is not negative. Remember just that the number with which you are dividing or multiplying should be negative. Not the number you are dividing or multiplying, the number with which you are dividing or multiplying. If it's negative, then the sign flips. Else, no, it is a positive 2, so it remains the same. So this is going to be k is less than negative 16. Well, now let's graph it. So for graphing, what are you going to do? You have to start by drawing a circle on 16. Right? Now, am I going to shade it? Definitely not, because I do not have an equal sign right like under it, correct? So now, what side should the arrow be pointing to? Should it point to the greater numbers than negative 16 or to the lesser numbers than negative 16? Look at the sign. It's showing to the left, which means it should all graph should also show all the numbers which are less than 16, because k can be negative 18, any number which is less than negative 16. So you have learned two things here, two important things. One is, keep in mind, if you're multiplying or dividing with a negative number, you need to flip the sign, as well as if you're not dividing with a negative or a positive negative number, or multiplying with a negative number, just like how we did here, the sign will not be flipped. Right, now this one of the questions which many do not like to solve because they are fractions. Right, so let's go ahead and solve. Take it as a challenge. Don't think it's difficult and just leave it out. Just try it. You will not, you will only learn something new. So the first thing is negative 1 over 5z plus 2 over 3 is less than or equal to 2. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move the net plus 2 over 3 to the other side. So that means it's going to become negative 1 over 5z is less than or equal to 2 minus 2 over 3. Now, well, you could solve this with mental math. That's like you have two wholes. If you remove 2/3, what's going to remain there? So you could get the answer like that. Else, if you cannot do that, all what you need to do is, let me show you the working, how it is to be done. Um, okay, so 2 minus 2 over 3. Now, this is a two whole, right? Which means it's like, what could you say? Well, I want you to concentrate on this. That's why I'm putting it in a pictorial form so that, okay, now I have two wholes here, right? Now, each of this has been divided into three parts. Okay, that's how fractions work. So you want to find out 2 minus 2 over 3, which means each circle has been divided into three parts. So let me draw that for you so that you will have, at least through a picture, you will have an idea how the fractions work out. So these are the three parts. Okay, now I know they are not perfectly three parts, but it will work. Fine. So how many parts are there in whole two figures? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you would divide one circle in three parts, because the denominator says it has been divided into three. So each of the circle needs to be divided in three parts, right? So if you divide the whole two in three parts, that's going to give you 6 parts over 3, because one circle has been divided into three parts, minus 2 over 3, which means you're going to remove 2 parts from here. So let's remove 2 parts. How many parts are you left with? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 minus 2 is going to give you a 4 over 3. Right now, because we are working, we still have more steps to be done. So I would recommend to leave it like this. Else, if it is not a question which you need to do more, definitely you need to turn it into a mixed number. And we have discussed enough. If in case if it comes, any question comes like that, I will explain that to you. But for now, 2 minus 2 over 3 is equal to 4 over 3. Or simply you could multiply 3 by 2, so that's also going to give you 6 over 3. I just explained to you in the picture form, right? So negative 1 over 5 is less than or equal to, oops, I'm saying less than or equal to, and then I'm writing greater than or equal to. And also here I have written, okay, my z also looks like the equal sign, greater and lesser sign. Let me make it a bit bigger for you. Fine. So negative 1 over 5z is going to be less than or equal to 4 over 3. Now, are we done with the question? Definitely not yet, because we need to remove this negative 1 over 5 from here. So what do you think we're going to do for this negative 1 over 5? When a variable and a number are together, means they're multiplied. So when you move the negative 1 over 4 to the other side, what happens? It will become positive. It will become divide by negative 1 over 5, right? So now you need to keep in mind, you need to flip it too, because you're dividing a negative number. So z is greater than or equal to 4 over 3 divided by negative 1 over 5. Now, I'm sure you all remember what you need to do. Keep it change it and flip it. So keep it, change it and flip it. So this is going to give us a negative 20 over 3, right? Now, we need to draw this thing on the number line. Now, we don't have negative 20 over 3 on the number line. So what we are going to do is we are going to change this into an improper fraction. I mean, into a mixed number. So how do you think you're going to change this into a mixed number? We are going to divide it. So 20 divided by 3 is going to give you a 6, and the remainder is a 2, which means it's 6 whole 2 over 3, because the denominator is 3, the denominator doesn't change. The remainder acts as the numerator, and this number, the quotient, acts as the whole number. Now do not forget, the question has a negative sign, so your answer is going to be C is greater than or equal to negative 6 2 over 3. Okay, now we are going to graph it. How do you need to find where is negative 6 2 over 3? Now you know that negative 6 2 over 3 is somewhere between negative 6 and negative 7. It cannot be between negative 5 and negative 6, right? So, and it'll even more like this part has been divided into 3. So 2 over 3 means the second part of it. So it's somewhere very near to 7, negative 7, because it's the second part. So it's going to be like this. Shade it. Now don't do it near to the negative 6, because it should be a bit far away from negative 6, because it is 2 parts, right? So the remaining part is greater, which means it should show to the side. I know it's a bit of a complicated question, that's because it's a fraction, but if you would know how to solve fractions, you would get this answer very easily. Right, let's move to the next question. Okay, now here we have 6 in parenthesis n minus 8 is greater than or equal to negative 18. Now there are two ways to solve this. Either you can multiply each term inside the parenthesis, okay, or you can simply divide it at once with negative 18, because 6 multiplied with this number means, so to start with you could do negative 18 divided by 6. I'll show you both the ways to do, so it's totally up to you how you could do it. So first let me show you by this distributive method. So I'm going to multiply each what's inside, so that's going to give me 6n minus 48 is greater or equal to negative 18, right? So the next step is going to be 6n is greater or equal to negative 18 plus 48, because negative 48 becomes positive 48. Next is 6n is greater or equal to, now one is positive, one is negative, means we are going to subtract both of them, 30, and the bigger number has positive sign, so it's going to be a positive answer. Next is n is greater or equal to 30 divided by 6, so n is going to be greater or equal to 5. Now this is using the distributive method. What if you use the direct division method? Like I said, you know that 6 has been multiplied here, so you could even use this way, where you leave n minus 8 here is greater or equal to negative 18 divided by 6. So that's going to give you n minus 8 is greater or equal to negative 3. Or what you're going to do is move the 8 to the other side. So that becomes n is greater than negative 3 plus 8, which means n is greater or equal to 5. However you choose the distributive method or you use the direct division method, both the answers are the same. So totally up to you how you want to do it. Right, now to graph the inequality, I will have to go to 5, draw a circle there. Now do I need to shade it? Yes, I do, because it says equal to also, which means 5 also can be a solution. Now how about the arrow? Should it go to the left or to the right? It says greater, which means it should show all the greater numbers from 5 till, all the numbers greater than 5, which means even 100 can be a solution for n, because 100 is greater than 5. Right, let's move on to the next question. Well, this looks a bit complicated, but it is not. Now, always, now for these kinds of questions, first what you do is, now again you can do in two ways. Either you multiply each of the terms inside the parenthesis, okay, and then solve it, or you move the 10 to the other side and you can do it the same way too. I'll show you both the ways to do, totally up to you, right? But first let me show you the distribution method. So this is going to be multiplied with each term inside the parenthesis. So this question is going to be 10 minus 6x minus 8 is less than 11, because negative 2 multiplied by 3x is going to give you a negative 6x, and negative 2 multiplied by positive 4 is also going to give you a negative 8. Now first let me solve these variables, simplify this side of the inequality because there are two numbers. So 10 minus 8 is going to give me a 2. So 6x plus 2 is less than 11, which means negative 6x is less than 11 minus 2, right? Negative 6x is less than 9. X is going to be greater than 9 divided by negative 6. Hopefully you understood why I flipped the sign, because we are dividing it with a negative 9. Simplify this. You could simplify this with a 3, which means 3 divided by a 3, 9 gives you a 3, and this also you need to divide with 3, so that's going to give you a negative 3 over 2, which means x is going to be greater than negative 1 and a half. If you change this into a mixed number, just in the previous slide we saw how to change into a mixed number. You're going to follow the same rule to change this also into a mixed number. So x is greater than negative 1 and a half. Let me show you the alternative method. Now I'm showing you the ways because I just want you to have an idea that any questions can be solved using many techniques. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to subtract the 10 from here. Okay, so that leaves me with negative 2, 3x plus 4 is less than 11 minus 10. So negative 2, 3x plus 4 is going to be less than 1. Right? Now what's the next step I'm going to do? The next step I'm going to do is remove this negative 2 from here. So to remove the negative 2, I need to divide it because it's been multiplied, right? 3x plus 4 is going to be greater than 1 divided by negative 2. It's already in the simplified form, so I do not need to do anything. The next is 3x is greater than or greater than negative 1 and a half minus 4. Now hopefully you do remember, just like how we did before, what is negative half minus 4? You have a whole 4. Now we have two negatives, which means we're going to add both the numbers, right? So 3x is going to be greater than negative 4 and a half, because 4 and half is 4 and a half. What's the next step? You're going to divide the negative 4 and a half by 3, because this is multiplied. So if you would do the same method, that's you're going to first 2 multiplied by negative 4 is negative 8 plus 1. So that's, we have to change it into a mixed number first. Again, you will do, I know this a bit lengthier way, but just I want you to learn new methods of solving it, that's all. Okay, so we will be doing KCF. So what's that going to give you? Keep it, change it, and flip it, because here there is no number, means it's going to be a 1. So this is also going to be, again, x is greater than negative 9 over 6. Again, you will divide this with 3. That means it's going to give you, now if you would see you got the same answer. A bit lengthier, but it's an option. Like sometimes it happens that we go suddenly blank when we solve these in equations. So I just wanted you to know that there is always an alternative method to solve math. So this is again going to be negative 1 over half. Okay, so it's the same answer, just that another way, that's all. Here we solved, we first multiplied each of the terms inside the parentheses and solved. But here we are first removing one by one the numbers, and then we are solving it. Well, let me know, comment and let me know which way did you use. Did you use method A of solving for question number 6, or did you choose method B for solving? Hopefully most of you will use method A because it's a quick and easier method. Right, let's graph this. So we're going to graph x is greater than -1.5. So -1 is here and -1.5 is between -1 and -2. So draw the circle between both of them. What about the arrow now? It should go to the right because it says greater. So x can be any number. It can be 2, it can be 4.5, any number which is to the right. Right. Let's go ahead with the next question here. Now there's another kind of question because we have the exponents. So remember the PEMDAS rule, we have to remove the exponents first, right? So let's solve it for the exponent first. Leave all that the same, only solve the exponent. Now this says -4 square. This is where many students make mistake. They know that 4 square means 4 multiplied by 4, but they forget to consider this negative sign. So -4 square means -4 multiplied by -4, just not 4 multiplied by 4. It's -4 multiplied by -4, which is going to give you a positive 16. Okay, is less than or equal to -9, because if you do this wrong, the whole question goes wrong. So you need to take care when you are solving exponents. Right, now you will do the same thing. Here we have two numbers, so we can simplify that side first. So 7 plus 16 is going to give us a 23, is less than or equal to -9. Now the same thing, 2c is less than or equal to -9, -23. So 2c is going to be less than or equal to -32, right? Now the last step is c is less than or equal to -32. I hope I'm not doing any mistake anywhere, am I? Let me quickly check this. I feel I'm forgetting something. Okay, let's quickly revise this. -4 multiplied by -4 is going to give us a positive 16. So 7 plus 16 is 23. Okay, so the mistake here was that because you have still not studied the exponents in detail, now I'm really sorry for that because I was just doing what we have done in grade 8. So I just got mixed up with both of the concepts. You have still not taken this exponential form in grade 7, right? So because of that, because you have not taken exponential form, so according to that, they just want you to keep this thing simple. So that's where the mistake was. They just want you to consider the 4 as a 4 square. That's all. They don't want you to multiply the -4 with a -4. Okay, hopefully. So this is going to be a 16. You know 4 squared is 16, right? But here is also going to be a -16. So which means, so you do not go deep into these things, okay? So this is going to stay the same. -4 square is going to give you a 16. I really apologize for that because the concepts differ because you have not learned that, so we do not go into detail of -4 multiplied by -4. So -4 squared is going to give you 16. So 7 minus 16 is going to give you 9, right? So it's going to be 2c is going to be 2c minus 9 is less than or equal to -9. Now, do take out that thing from your mind, that -4 square. That's not totally for you. Hopefully, you will learn it in the next year, right? So, we remove all this. Okay. So the next step is you're gonna move the -9 to the other side. That will become a +9. So 2c is less than or equal to 0. Right? Now, how do we need to remove this? But you know that if any number is 0 is divided by any number, the answer is going to be a 0. So to graph it, you just go to 0, circle the shape the circle, and then you need to show the numbers less than 0. Okay, so quickly let me explain this again. This, do not remember what I explained before because that's not for your level, right? So 7 plus 2c, it's going to be 4 square is going to be 16. How? Because 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. So this is going to be -16 because the negative sign is already there. Then we move the negative, we simplified this. -16 plus 7 is going to give us a -9. So 2c minus 9 is less than or equal to -9. Again, move the -9 to the other side. That becomes a +9. That's going to give you a 0. C is less than or equal to 0 over 2. C is less than or equal to 0. Right, let's go to this question now. Again, there is an exponent as well as we have to use the distributive property here. So first, let's remove this exponent from here. So 2 to the power of 3, which means 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, which is going to give us an 8, right? So similarly, we will again solve this. So we will simplify everything. So 15p plus 3p minus 3 is greater than 3 multiplied by 8. Okay, so the next step is, let's remove the parentheses first. So 15p plus 3p minus 3 is going to be greater than 24. Now, well, you can see that both of them are p's, so we can simply simplify them. 15 plus 3p is going to give you 18p minus 3 is greater than 24. 18p is going to be greater than 24 plus 3. So 18p is going to be greater than 27. P is going to be greater than 27 divided by 18. Now we can simplify this with 3 because 27 and 18, both of them have 3. So P is greater than 9 over 6, or we could even simplify them with a 9 rather than doing it with 3, because if you do it with 3, you will have to do it again with 3. So simply it's better you simplify it with 9. So 27 divided by a 9 gives you a 3. 18 divided by 9 gives you a 2, which means it's 3 over 2. Now when you change it into a mixed number, that's going to give you 1.5. Okay, so P is greater than 1.5. Now 1.5 is in between 1 and 2, so draw a circle there. You're not going to shade it. It looks shaded, isn't it? So, and then all you need to do is use, oops, okay, it was a bad idea to change the, okay, so simply it goes to this side, and the arrow, do not forget the arrow. Right, this was an easy question. The other one was also easy, just that I messed up with the -4 square, that's all. Okay, now let's go do some problem solving. A full year membership to a gym costs $325 upfront, means direct, with no monthly charge. So if you're going to a gym for a full year, right, so you just have to pay $325 directly. This for one full year. Then a monthly membership cost, if you're going to pay monthly, that means it's costing $100 upfront and $30 per month. So you need to pay $100 first time, and then $30 you need to keep paying monthly. For what numbers of months is it less expensive to have monthly membership? So first, definitely we need to write an inequality. Okay, so they are telling us to compare between the full year and the monthly membership. So let's write down the inequality first. So for a monthly membership cost, it's $100 plus you have to pay $100 plus 30 per month. So we don't know how many months. So let's keep this as 30 per month, 30 multiplied by m, because so we don't know how many months, plus 100 should be less than, because they're asking for what number of month is it less expensive, less than 325. This is your inequality. So I think after this you can simply solve it. 30m is less than 325 minus 100. Then 30m is going to be less than 225. M is less than 225 divided by 30. So if you would divide 225 by 30, that's going to give you, okay, let me do it for you so that you will remember the steps. Okay, so we cannot divide all these things. So we have a 7, right? 0, 21. So we subtract this. Now we cannot leave it like that because they're asking how many months. So there is a remainder here. We are going to put the point at the 0. That means we have 150, so 7.5 months, right? So M is going to be less than 7.5 months, right? Now they're asking how, for what number of months is it less expensive? So you could say this is less for any number which is less than 7.5. So you could say it could be less for 7 months, or it can be less for 6 months, because you're counting months, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 month. No, definitely there is no 0 month, right? So it can be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 months, because these are the numbers in months which are less than 7. Now for the next question. The sum of the lengths of any two sides of a triangle must be greater than the length of the third side. Now underline the important words and understand the question. The sum of the lengths of any two sides. So any two sides, the sum, when you add any two sides of the triangle, that must be greater than the third side. So this is one side, this is the second side, and this is the third side. Now it's totally up to you. Not necessarily you need to name it like in the same order. They said any two sides length. So you could take this as 1, this as 2, and this as 3 also. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to add this and this too. This side and this side. So they said it should be greater than the length of the third side. So let me take it as, okay, let me name this to be side 1, side 2, and side 3. So the sum of 1 and 2 should be greater than 3, which means x plus 5 plus 40 should be greater than 3x. That's what they said, right? So how are I going to solve? First, remove the, simplify the numbers this side. So that's going to give you x plus 45 is greater than 3x, which means x is greater than, 45 is greater than 3x minus x. So 45 is greater than 2x. Then it's going to be 45 divided by 2 is going to be greater than x, which means 22.5 is greater than x. Please omit the background noise because I know my house is too noisy, so just ignore the background noise, okay? Okay, so it can be any values. So the possibilities of x can be any value which is, now if I would flip this, right, it will be x is less than 22.5. So this is how you need to do it. So hopefully you have understood this part. Now this is a problem solving. Definitely just you need to do it for practice, as well as it will help you understand the different techniques of doing questions. So that was all for this lesson. If you do have any doubt, you can definitely clear with me. Alright, hopefully all these questions are clear, just that you need to do it patiently because you might go do something small anywhere, so that will give the whole uh, answer to be wrong, right? So hopefully until we meet in the next video, keep practicing. If you have got the answers right, do comment and let me know, or at least leave a like so that I'll know that many of you have got the answers right. So till we meet again, keep practicing.